Toledo's first Black woman fire captain gets harassed by colleagues, even though she's the captain. Put it up full mass. This is a hell of a story. Ohio captain Komako Goolsby. It's Goolsby, the Toledo Fire and Rescue Department's highest ranked Black female officer, filed a racial and gender discrimination lawsuit against the department and multiple leaders, alleging that she has been subjected to not days, not weeks, not months, but years of harassment, bullying, false accusations, and ridicule. Goolsby, who has served in the fire department since 2006, was the first African-American woman promoted to captain in September 2022. That's according to a lawsuit filed in the Common Pleas Court of Lucas County, Ohio, and obtained by Atlanta Black Star. So since then, some of her fellow officers have turned against her. She claims investigating and deciding to discipline her for minor infractions, making false and slanderous statements about her on, social media. October 2022. Lieutenant Joseph Zuber, who is white, made an allegation that a finger pulse oximeter, which I think it determines your oxygen level in your blood, had previously gone missing while she was in charge of a crew on duty. Rather than properly file a lost equipment report, the then Lieutenant Goolsby had agreed with a suggestion to buy a replacement at a local supermarket, tapping the fire station's house fund of $28, reported Toledo Blade. Oximeter, that's what it is. It's a very small device. You can get it from CVS or Walgreens. So she decided to save them trouble and just go ahead and get another one. Put them up full mask. Later, the assistant chief, John Kaminsky, quote, made a huge deal about it, end quote, and demanded that the captain's bars be taken away and that she receive a 15-day suspension, which the lawsuit says was a recommended punishment, not commensurate with the violation. I'm not a firefighter, but I know good and damn well $28 in a purchase because a protocol may have been missed and now an item is replaced will not strip you of your bars. There's more. In the end, Goolsby repaid the $28 and received 16 hours of officer development training for the episode. The complaint says Zuber constantly harasses Goolsby and at times has, quote, gotten directly in her face in attempts to intimidate her, end quote. Though he does not work with her directly, Zuber has filed at least 5 internal affairs complaints against her based on false accusations, and also went to several fire stations, quote, making bullying and harassing statements, end quote, about her. The lawsuit states she has complained to superiors about the hostile behavior, but he has received no discipline, no counseling, she claims. Perhaps the most serious charge Goolsby has faced is that she falsified a report related to an emergency call on an elderly woman who had fallen down in her home December 27th, 2023. So according to the fire department records obtained by the Blade, Ms. Goolsby, the captain, the only paramedic on the crew, did not accompany 3 firefighters from her engine who went into the home to assist the woman. and then submitted a report containing patient information for a person who was not involved. So she later explained. So according to the captain, she explained in a memorandum that she was ill and vomiting outside the truck during that call and thought her crew could handle lift assisting the fallen woman, who was, quote, a regular patient who calls often. Goolsby attributed her mistake of including another patient's information in the report to her illness that day and a foggy brain. March 2024. The then acting fire chief, Kaminsky, investigated Goolsby directly over her handling of the call and charged her with making a false report, carelessness, incompetence, and conduct detrimental to the fire department in a written counseling document that was then leaked or given to the Blade. Quote, it was not an event that should have received discipline, her attorney, Richard Mitchell, told the Blade at the time. Quote, there have been other people who have done the same thing and not been brought to task for it. Someone is causing her to be targeted or attacked. Now, typically, when you have the pattern of extreme discipline for what seems to be minor infractions, a lot of times these cats don't know they're setting themselves up, because you can easily find in the record individuals who are similarly situated, committing the same offense. You have a track record. There's a written dynamic here, and there was no punishment. There was a warning. Unequal application of the rule. Easiest thing for an attorney to prove once they subpoena the records. So the lawsuit contends that while the white firefighters, including captains in the Toledo Fire Department, routinely received counseling, and that information is not leaked to news organizations. Also, in March 2024, Fire Chief Michael Ramstadt, who is white, repeatedly slandered Goolsby on Facebook, the complaint says, accusing her of, quote, not acting as an officer, end quote. Other white firefighters chimed in, agreeing with him and making negative comments. This actively violated the city of Toledo's social media policy, but the officers faced no consequences, and according to the lawsuit, and she's the captain. If she's that bad, you have to wonder, how did she become a captain in the first place? Typically, if you're a bad firefighter, you don't get promoted to captain, especially if you happen to be a Black female. There's more. So Lieutenant Eric Pinkham, along with other white firefighters, displayed Proud Boys and Trump clothing. Here we go. While holding rifles. And degraded and harassed Goolsby and other African-American female city employees on Facebook without consequence. Once again, it's against the rules, the complaint says. In contrast, a minority employee who complained about Pinkham in another unrelated discrimination complaint was disciplined. Goolsby complained to the city's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office concerning her belief that she was being subjected to ongoing harassment because of her race and gender. She did this in March of 2024. Put him up. Oh, man. So the following month, she wrote to the battalion chief. His name is Kurt King. She said to Kurt that the discrimination had escalated because the previous harassment had not been addressed, including other officers disrespecting her now in public, on social media, on public radio. Yes, public freaking radio. June 2024, the fire chief, Allison Armstrong, sent Goolsby a letter that she was being charged with backing into a fire station without a backer. Another person assisting and allegedly ordering a driver, according to the allegation, to do the same. The city did not interview Goolsby. or follow his usual investigative process before charging Goolsby. Um, the complaint says, backing without a backer. There's more. Captain Kristen Turner. So meanwhile, Captain Kristen Turner, who was white, sent an email to several employees inquiring if they ever had a problem with Goolsby and if they had a personal journal documenting their concerns. Captains outside of plaintiff Goolsby protected classes are not subjected to this type of witch hunt, the lawsuit states. So despite complaining about the harassment to the battalion chief, Verdale Franklin, several times since she became captain, the city of Toledo has not adequately addressed the concerns, according to the lawsuit, has instead subjected her to monthly investigations, disrespect from subordinates, and hostile working conditions. There's a lot. There's also a lot more. But for some reason, at this point, she's not fired. They're just documenting, trying to make it difficult, wanting her to resign, perhaps. All right. So the lawsuit accuses the city of Toledo, Kaminsky, Ramstadt, Zuber, Pinkham, Tanner, and 3 other fire department employees of racial and gender discrimination, hostile work environment, retaliation, and violation of Ohio law. It says Goolsby has suffered lost wages, emotional distress, consequential damages, and seeks a jury trial to determine compensatory and punitive damages in excess of $50,000 for each defendant, plus legal costs that amounts to $1.5 million. The Toledo Fire Department did not immediately return a request for comment from Atlanta Black Star. In a statement to WTOL last month, a spokesperson for the city said, quote, "The Ohio Civil Rights Commission previously reviewed the same allegations and determined that it was not probable that the city of Toledo or the firefighters named in the suit engaged in any unlawful discriminatory practices. It is unfortunate that these unfounded claims continue to divert time and attention from the important work of the Toledo Fire and Rescue Department." Now, keep in mind, a lot of this stuff is documented for the record: social media, public radio appearances, and obviously the charges against her for minor infractions. Okay, Yasmin, that's a whole lot. The woman is staying strong. Her lawsuit is filed. Once the subpoena comes in and the records are clear and you can compare and contrast, you will see likely, well, let's just say inequity in treatment.
hmm Yeah, that is really what this is about equity. And I'm sorry to keep plugging my Rebel HQ video that isn't out yet, but I did mention in that video that maybe women don't feel comfortable in this country anymore because misogyny has become so normalized recently. We have currently a sex pest in the Oval Office who has said horrible things about women and has done horrible things to women. He has been found guilty of committing sex crimes against women, and he is closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein, and millions of people in this country voted for him 3 times, knowing all of that. They also came for women's health care and they took it. They're coming for our right to vote. They're coming for our right to divorce our husbands. And women's labor continues to be undervalued and underpaid. And with that, we're now seeing women in high ranking positions, either in government positions or elsewhere, being denied the positions and salaries and recognition that they've earned because they're being called DEI hires. So, on top of all of that, who or what can we turn to? Our institutions are failing us. If they're not attacking us, they're certainly not protecting us. But, Doc, you mentioned the unequal application of the law when you were talking. And we're seeing an awful lot of that these days. Captain Goolsby is a woman and she is black, right? Charlie Kirk once said that if he saw a black pilot flying his plane, he would be worried that maybe he's not in the best hands because apparently any black person in any position is probably only there because of DEI initiatives, not because they're just that good at their jobs, not because they're capable of performing their jobs. It was super racist when he said it. It's still super racist now. But we know that the opposite is often true. If Captain Goolsby, as a Black woman, was made chief, there was no celebration of white mediocrity there. I would bet that
Right.
she had to work so much harder for that position than others would have had to who are not Black women. Minorities constantly have to fight to prove themselves and their worth because their worth is constantly being questioned and devalued. They're held to unbelievably high standards. And every time they screw up, their mistakes are not only seen as being less forgivable, but their actions are seen to be reflective of their entire communities. That is an enormous amount of pressure for people for people to bear while performing their jobs admirably and flawlessly at the same time. So I really hope that things work out for the captain here. She has a lot of people fighting against her. I'm sure she's probably used to it, given the line of work that she's in, given who she is as a double minority in this country, in this particular political climate, especially in that part of the country. I'm sure she's used to it. I'm sure she's a strong woman, but she shouldn't have to be. And none of this is a fight that should ever have taken place.
That's right. And based on what the city said, they blamed her.
Mhm.
They said, oh, we got to get back to the important work of firefight. But she's one of yours. What makes somebody else's word stronger than hers? Not even I'm looking into it as the battalion chief. No, there's an investigation. We want to know all the facts before we make a comment. They simply took the side of the multiple individuals who seemingly have violated the rules. Two questions at the end of the day that attorney is going to note. How did she get those bars in the first place? Meaning, how did she become captain? And why did people who are similarly situated as her not receive the same penalty for the same infraction? Those two questions are going to be their ruin.